Good evening, everyone, and welcome to NerD TopiC. You know, everybody has a hobby or even a full-out profession that they just get so obsessed about that it becomes kind of nerdy, right? Well, tonight we have a NerD TopiC Musicians Edition featuring players of the steel drum. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, or lady and gentlemens. Welcome to the show, you guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having us. This is great.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. We have below Miranda Alexander.
Yeah, that's me.
This direction, Chris Colaneri, and down there on the diagonal, Chris Asschman, all steel drum players. We're gonna have a good time listening to some music, playing, talking about steel pan's history, and I'm sure all kinds of other craziness is gonna come up. So thanks for joining us. Let's jump right in and just do a little round robin. We'll start with Miranda. Just give us a little intro. Say hi to everybody out there.
So, hey, everyone. I don't play the steel drum. I came from Trinidad and Tobago, where the steel drum was born, but I don't play it. I'm the president of Caribbean community in Philadelphia, so it's great to be here with you.
Welcome. Thanks for having you. I apologize. I thought you played, but you're still the authority in my mind.
I missed that time in my life.
Chris Asschman, you want to say hi?
Hey, what's up, internet universe? My name is Chris Asschman. I play the steel pan or steel drum or pan. We'll talk about that later. I'm originally from Baltimore, where the Ravens are from. I study the music of Trinidad and Tobago, and I have a group called Trinadelphia in Philadelphia that kind of combines those things. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Welcome, Chris. Looking forward to hearing more. Last but certainly not least, Chris Colaneri. Welcome, buddy. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. I come to you guys from New Jersey, Central Jersey, Hillsborough, New Jersey, just north of Princeton. So I'm a music educator. I'm in the public school systems here in New Jersey. I perform on several different percussion instruments, and I fell in love with the steel pan. But I teach, I perform. Bahama Breeze is the main chain restaurant that I play with. They've been great to me. And also play classical music. So sometimes I'm playing with some national acts that come through. My last gig was actually with Josh Groban at Radio City Music Hall, and I played with some. I found a gig of playing in the orchestra behind rock bands. So I'll play with Warren Haynes, some Jerry Garcia music. I'll play with Hanson, the group Hanson.
Oh my God, that's great.
So I get around, but my passion, my love, I guess, is steel pan, and I'm a big Trinadelphia fan. So.
Oh, come on.
Aren't we all, right?
Yes.
There's only 3 of them, and they're all here. It's so awesome that you guys all made it.
And all of you out there.
That was a little PayPal moment. Hey, Chris, drop the name of my band and I'll PayPal you $5. Okay.
I already got it.
Yeah, I Venmo'd him.
Nice. Shouldn't it be the other way? Anyway.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, you're Venmo me. Wait a minute.
That's right. I thought we could start off with just maybe speaking about the origins of the steel drum, steel pans, because I personally don't know much about the instrument. I'm sure if you asked me, I would put my foot in my mouth and probably say the wrong thing about where it comes from or how old it is and such. So, Miranda, would you like to speak on the history, the origin of the drum?
Absolutely. So this little airing here is from my home country. This is the shape of our country without Tobago. Tobago was a smaller island country. So the steel drum or the steel pan is the only acoustic musical instrument that was invented in the 20th century. That's what all Trinidadians say first, because we want to claim it as our original invention. We fought for it. I mean, there were people who were jailed for it. So it came out of our environment. Almost, if you live in Philadelphia, you would know where like Kensington, North Philly, all that stuff. It came from Laventille. So Laventille is the place, John and all these places surrounding the city where there's deep poverty, there's deep violence, there is everything you can think about. There's the hooligans, there's the badgeons that we will call them in Trinidad and Tobago. All that is good for like a useful a collision of really good things that happen out of something bad. So it's like necessity is the mother of invention. And I think in this kind of times that we live in, anything is possible. Great things can happen out of bad situations. So the steel drums came out of that. And so out of the 70s in Trinidad, when I was born in the 70s, 70 to be exact, no longer, but there was an oil boom that was happening. I mean, lots of great money was flowing in Trinidad. People were enjoying the great life. But then at the same time, they took the oil drums and magic happened. And it was a lot of different things that happened to create the steel drum. And so the steel drum was created, and people fought for that. And so today in Trinidad and around the world, there's a lot of great competition that happens with the steel drum. The steel drum has become like classical musical instruments. I've seen a video where Liberace played with the steel drum. And he didn't just do it once, he did it a couple of times. The Tripoli steel drum from Trinidad, they appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, the David Frost Show, and he led, even Liberace led the group. It's amazing to watch. And the leader of the group looked like Liberace. He influenced Liberace, or Liberace probably influenced him, which way ever it went. But it was amazing to see back then what had happened. But it was a lot of fights. There was a lot of gang turf wars and stuff. You know, like we have in Philadelphia, you have one community or one area that fights, and you know, so it was a lot of turf wars. And even today, there's a lot of competition among, you know, it's more healthy these days than it was back then. So the steel drum is something that we love to claim that's our original musical instrument. It's our national musical instrument.
Is there anything equivalent to jazz in America where two different locations try to claim the literal first, like here it's Chicago and New Orleans? They'll both kind of like, maybe New York, but they'll say like jazz was born here, this is where it's from, and they still argue to this day. Are there two regions in Trinidad where it's like, no, the north, the south, like something like that?
Actually, they're not too far away. So like Laventille and John is like right within the same area there. So they're not too like south and west. But there was a lot of people who claim to be the first, you know. So we have like Len's Booksy Shop and all these great pioneers of the steel drum, Winston Spree and all of them, you know. There are different stories about it. So there's the ghetto where it was born. That's for sure. We know that it was born there in Laventille, John area, and it grew out of that. And so now it's all the way in Japan, China, everywhere, Australia, everywhere around the world. But it started way back, not just before the 70s. We had it way back in 1930, and then there was an evolution that's been happening in 1952 area, you know, the era, and then 1970, where it came to that fruition point of acceptance, because there was a lot of times, and I grew up in the church, so a lot of times we couldn't play the steel drum because it was of the devil. Oh, that's what I learned when I was young. So I never learned to play the steel drum just because I grew up in the church. Wow. I missed that opportunity. But right now in the churches, there's steel drums. So
and because you were a woman too, right? That was
well, maybe, but everyone was excluded from it. It was just, it's like carnival. So carnival is synonymous with a steel band competition and everything. It's a whole masquerade back in Trinidad and Tobago. But back then, the churches did not accept the steel drum as a musical instrument. So didn't accept, and still hasn't accept carnival for what it is, because it's debauchery. It's just really lascivious. It's wild. It's crazy. It's like sex on the street, kind of. So like, no, we don't want to do anything with that. You know, we don't have anything to do with it. So yeah, it's like the evolution of hip hop. That's what I always say. You know, and rap. Everything evolves out of somewhere, and that's how it went.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's a thorough summation.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Of course, yeah.
And a lot like the evolution of hip hop, it has reached a spot where it's been strangely reclaimed by Caucasian people somehow, and that was part of the reason I called Peter in the first place, as a white guy who plays a steel drum. Just some of the funny situations you get into, and also I wanted to discuss the history and just, kind of hopefully set the record a little straighter on what the instrument is and how it works in America,
Yeah. Yeah, I should give everybody watching a little insight. Chris reached out to me. He's kind of like the co-producer of this episode. I've been doing music, giant umbrella, like all guitars, all drums, all composers, and so steel drums is like a micro sort of segment of it. But Chris reached out and said, I think there's a lot of people don't know about this instrument and a lot of things I certainly didn't know. So yeah, we're kind of co-hosting this in a way. Chris is going to drop some questions and chime in a lot because I'm almost the viewer in this. I have some honest questions that are very simple and very kind of innocent, about the steel drums. I had no idea it literally came from an oil drum like that. But now that I can hear that sound of just thinking about just the acoustic of an oil drum falling over when I was a kid, now I can hear that kind of the similarity and the reason why that is. So that's fascinating. Chris Colaneri,
Yeah.
You have a pretty suave setup behind you. You interested in playing something for us? It dawned on me that people might not even know what a steel pan looks like who are watching this, or might not know how it sounds. You want to play something for us?
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Maybe I could show you what
Well, sure.
you see the pan from the outside, but maybe a closer look on the inside. This is a pan that I got from Trinidad, actually. Gil Steel Pan sent me these over, and it actually took a little over a year to come to me because of the production of it and the whole process of powder coating it. This one's a powder coat. This one's a student steel pan for my steel. I have a student steel pan ensemble, even outside of the schools. Little side about that. I had a great name for this 2 years ago, and I had the website made up for it, and I had a logo made up, and the name of my steel pan ensemble was called Pandemic.
Oh.
Oh no.
Pandemic.
I loved the name. My wife said, "No, don't do that." And I'm like, it's a great name because we're spreading.
But now it is.
We're
It makes
spreading.
you popular.
So I had to change the name. I changed the name, get a new logo and everything. So we're Pantropic now.
Okay.
But so anyway, these are the pans that I use with this group, and the layout is interesting. If you're a musician, you would know the circle of fifths, maybe familiar with that. And this particular pan has 3 rings in it, and so we go C, G, D, A, E, B, and then the circle of fourths kind of going this way: C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, and then you have a C here, then a higher octave C, and then actually even a higher octave above that. So this is cut from the 55-gallon drum, and there's all different size steel pans. There's Gitzes and these other types of double tenors, double seconds that maybe Chris may even be able to go into a little more detail about. But yeah, I'll play something for you now, and let me just set up my sound here.
Cool. Chris A, while Chris C is setting up, do you want to chime in on anything else about the pans as far as their design or their like why people play 2 pans? Like I've always wondered that. Like why is there 2 pans?
Well, I mean, the whole thing has been, as Miranda says, been evolving for many years. The original steel pans were just paint buckets, called ping pong, that actually was made to replicate the sound of the church or the town. What's the name of the city hall in Port of Spain right now?
I'm thinking Philadelphia. Put me on the spot there. Trinidad. Port of Spain, right?
Well, yeah, city hall in Port of Spain in the 40s and 50s. There was a church bell.
Red House, the Red House.
The Red House. Okay, there it is.
Are you talking about the square?
Yeah, in the square.
Right across from the Red House?
The original sounds were actually developed from that like clock tower bell,
Oh, okay.
And from there, the drums were built from my understanding, to mimic the sound of British classical music that was being played on the radio during the World War, the Second World War. And from there, the thing has just evolved and evolved. Now you have, in Trinidad, you have what's called a 13 bass, where you have 13 oil barrels with 3 notes on each, and one guy or girl in the middle, just, playing them from memory. It's incredible. But
Is there a steel
Anyway.
pan? Is there a steel pan with 2 notes that I can just play to be a part of the band and just like, you know, play like the surdo drum in Brazil? I just need to play like C and G, man, you know?
You're more than welcome to try to join with the latency. We've been trying it for a year, but I wouldn't recommend.
Okay. Nice. All right, we're going to ricochet back to Chris Colaneri. He's going to play us a song.
Did we tell you that it was intoxicating too? So watch out.
That's the good word. That's a good word for it. It's very soothing off the bat, and it takes me away immediately, you know.
Oh, I love that song. I love that. It reminds me of when I play out and I'm just playing either on a beach or if I'm playing on at a patio and playing for people.
What's that song called, Chris?
Trinity to the Bone.
Okay.
David Rudder. And I remember actually playing a place. Can't remember the name of it where I played, but I remember playing and someone was sitting down and like watching me, and he kind of had an attitude the whole time, and I'm like, why is he like kind of looking at me like there's like the island music relaxing, right? So I play this song, and then his expression changed, everything kind of changed, and he took out his camera and was taking a video of me, and then after the set he complimented me, said some really nice things, and he goes, I just sent my dad your video in Trinidad. He plays steel pan and he loved it, that version, whatever. And I think that song itself means a lot to people, from Trinidad, because it's like an anthem in some ways.
Yeah.
So it felt nice to see someone who, knows Trinidadian music appreciate my version of it,
Isn't that the best as a musician when you see, and it's tricky to get that connection with somebody in the audience, because so for me as a drummer, but as a jazz singer too, I tend to see when I get a reaction from an older, a little bit more classy dressed type of person. That'll be a couple, could be white or black, but I won't lie. In general, if it's an older, classy black couple, and they're enjoying the music, I do think of that as a little bit more props. I know it's silly and but I just think that there's a little bit. And is that anything like what you mean? I mean, am I wrong in thinking that, where it's like,
I think that's exactly that. Sure,
Yeah.
because you always, you want, not that I need validation. I'm comfortable with my playing and everything.
Sure.
But when someone appreciates it, who knows the music, and
Right.
grew up with it. See, I didn't grow up with it. I didn't grow up with it. How did I learn this song? I learned it from someone said, "Hey, this is a great island song to play." I found the sheet music. I found some music to play along with, and or when I play with the band. So I'm not coming into it. I didn't grow up with it. My first. Andy Narell was the first person I think I heard who played steel pan through Spyro Gyro, because I had a jazz background. I played a lot of jazz vibes and marimba. So I'm backtracking in a way, but it's great. It's great to keep learning about the music and the culture. So I love it.
That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Peter.
Chris Asschman, for everybody who knows him. I know you had some interesting stories about kind of what we're talking about the interaction with crowd or expectations of people who, hear or see you play the drum. You want to talk about anything like that? I think you know what I mean.
Sure. I mean, well, my life is in such a funny intersection. I'm a trumpet player first, I did study classical music in middle school and high school, but I fell in love with jazz when I was 16. And really since then, I've just been kind of a student of Black music in general. I play steel pan all the time. And I do play about half, like Chris C. I play a lot of Trinity songs. I grew up with them. I learned to play in a school group, just like Chris C. runs now, which in that group played primarily Trinity music and actually some panorama arrangements from Trinidad, the full 10-minute versions. So in a way, I half grew up with it. Like he said, I didn't grow up with it. Well, I half did. I started when I was 14 on the pan. I also played bass at a church that, is really like a Baptist gospel kind of flavor at the church. So I'm in this funny intersection where I feel like I'm constantly having to validate myself a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, and it's interesting. I've never felt a feeling of, I never had anybody kind of call me a culture vulture, if you will, or like give me this kind of feeling of appropriation that I knew, but there's been this sense like on the internet, especially during COVID, comments will pop up on certain videos or even about the band. I have a group called Trinadelphia, right? In 2021, I probably wouldn't have named it Trinadelphia. I would have thought a little harder about the origins and all that. But when I was 19 and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I need a group. Do you have a group?" I called a friend of mine, Ian, who's still the bassist now, and a drummer friend, and I needed a name. I said, "We're going to play Trinity music. We're in Philly, Trinadelphia. It sounds good." So that's kind of like a little background on my experience.
Sure.
I'm 35 now. I've been playing this music for a long time. I've been to Trinidad twice. I've been to Carnival and played with the Supernovas of Lopino Road in Surrey Village. And one year we took second place. It was amazing. At this point, I thought it'd just be great to take some of the free time we had and have a discussion about why is Andy Narell the person that you found out about the steel pan about? I mean, he's the best known steel pan player really in the world in terms of record sales and these things. But then there's such a wealth of other players like Len Bugsy Sharp, who Miranda mentioned. Right. I'm actually about to play a Len Bugsy Sharp original tune that's now become an old standard. So it's just really interesting, the whole phenomena. And I think it's just important to differentiate that there are people playing this instrument that are doing it in a way that is distasteful and is not informed and is appropriation for sure. Mm-hmm. I see it happening less and less. That's the good news. But looking forward and living through the Black Lives Matter, kind of movement this year, and just really reflecting, I've just been filled with like a feeling of like I need people to know even more about what this is from. It's from Laventille, from like the poorest community in a pretty poor city in a pretty wealthy country, as Caribbean countries are. One thing Miranda may not have mentioned: is it still true that Trinidad is the third wealthiest per capita nation in the Western Hemisphere?
That's what they said. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got our struggles.
Oh yeah. The classism is pretty intense.
Yes, it's very much, because we have a huge, what we have done so far with the Indian culture, back home, since we have Indians. By the way, my grandmother is Indian, so I come from that mixed culture, but they've pretty much taken over Trinidad and Tobago. The rate per capita, the Indians. And one thing I wanted to mention too, so just like how you feel, we had someone called Denise Plummer. She's a Calypsonian. When I was a little girl, I was watching her on TV, and she is of Irish and Black heritage. She mostly looked like a white girl. She was booed off the stage when she first sang her Calypso song. They threw toilet paper at her and all these things. Is just, she worked through and she worked past those things. So I think it's a part of anything that's, in terms of cultural appropriation. When you're doing the right things, it gets misconstrued somewhere. Same thing with me, being in Philadelphia. I feel the same pain that you feel because I love Philadelphia. There's just a love affair that I have. And I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. So I feel what you feel with Black Americans too. Even being a Black Caribbean person, I do feel the same thing. So I think as long as you give, as we say, Jack his jacket, that is, that's the most important thing. And that's one thing you do, Chris. You give Jack his jacket. You give Trinidadians their jacket. You give them, like, the Pan is the original. And I can hear from Chris C too, that you give Trinidadians, you give the respect. Where
Absolutely.
Respect is, and that's key. And that's key to it.
Yeah, there's kind of an old world mentality and a new world mentality. The new world mentality would be growing up, the mantra when I was in elementary school, middle school, you could do anything you want. You can be anybody you want to be, right? And the old world mentality wants to hold on to the music. And this is, Trinidad has this amazing musical contribution to the world of the steel pan. You hear it all over the place. It's super recognizable. And it's also a pretty frustrating thing I've heard from a lot of Trinis, that Trinidad tends to want to stick to its ways and not accept that pan has gone way beyond Trinidad now. It's a global phenomena, and globalization is an inevitable force. So, like in Japan, there's something like 100 steel bands in Switzerland. Like, these nations have like more pan than the US even has in the smaller countries. It's crazy. Anyway, I'm going to play a song.
Play a song, Chris.
All this serious.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to play a Trini folk tune I learned many, many years ago called Pan Rising. It's by Len Bugsy Sharp. I'm just going to play it solo, no tracks. Just try to convey the melody. I can hear the melody, but that was kind of
all right.
There were a lot of shapes in there that were a little different, but
What are the limits of the steel drum? Like, what is the general range? Is it 3 octaves?
it depends on the pan. Really 2 1/3 octaves for all the single drums. For the double and triple, it's closer to 3 octaves. And there's a pan called a quad pan. I think it's got almost 4. It's like a huge range.
Oh boy. Okay.
Now your pan's unique though, right, Chris? You have an extended tenor pan, lead pan, or
Yeah, I play a low G tenor. So what you heard Chris C play earlier is a C tenor. That was the instrument that was developed in Trinidad. In the last 15 years, the low G tenor has been developed. It comes from an 80-gallon barrel instead of a 55-gallon barrel.
That's how they do it.
It was built by Kyle Dunleavy, who's right here in, where is he now? Fort Washington, PA. But there are makers that make low G tenors in Trinidad and elsewhere. So
yeah, that's where my pan's a Dunleavy pan too.
Yeah, one of the best makers anywhere is Kyle, because he studied with Elie Manette, rest in peace.
Right. Yeah.
Who was considered the inventor of the steel pan. Miranda mentioned that there's a number of folks that developed it together. He kind of took credit and gets a lot of the credit, but Spree Simon and some of these other folks too are like really important. Yeah.
That's very cool. We're at the 2-minute mark. Why don't we go around and have everybody just quickly mention a project they're working on, or perhaps where they could be found if anybody wanted to contact you for a gig or for teaching. Miranda, where they could find you to hear you talk more or get in touch with the society you represent and such. So we'll start with Miranda.
Okay, so I'm the president of Caribbean Community in Philadelphia. You can find us online at caribbeancommunityinphiladelphia.com. You can find us on Facebook, on our page, as well as our group. We do quite a number of things. We're very much like 8-part program, a nonprofit organization in Philadelphia. So we look forward to all things Caribbean. This is Black History Month. And so we engage the kids too on all these things, Black history as well as our Caribbean history right here, Caribbean contributions to America.
Wonderful. Chris Colaneri, where can we find you?
Facebook is a great place to find me. Just search up my name. I also have a website. It's eventpercussion.com. I had so many different kind of projects going that I said, let me just put everything under eventpercussion.com. So my steel pan school, I have a holiday percussion, I have a youth orchestra that I work with, all of my steel pan solo performances, and I have jazz information there as well. It could all be eventpercussion.com.
Perfect. We'll look for you.
Sure. Thanks.
Chris Asschman, where can we find you?
Okay. I guess first and foremost, Trinadelphia.com. It's spelled this way with an I-N-I, not Trinadelphia, Trinadelphia. Trinadelphia.com is a great place to check me out. I also have Instagram, Trinadelphia Music, and an Instagram in my name, just Chris Asschman, CHRISASCHMAN. I just made my first hip hop video. I've been exploring some different realms. That's on there, and so are some like jazz trumpet with steel drum arrangements I did. So you can check that out. Yeah,
amazing, cool. Chris wanted to mention something else kind of funny that he exposed me to the other day. What was that, Chris?
Oh, I think anybody who made it this far in the podcast, please check out. There's an amazing parody called Steel Pan Whiplash. They actually took the trailer from the film Whiplash and redid it for Steel Pan, and it's just like, for me, it's just a hilarious nugget. So check it out.
I'll drop the link right. Wait a minute. Right. No, right. How do I do this? Right there. It's going to be right up top there, you guys.
In the description.
That's right. That's what everybody says. The comment section below, you know.
Lay a link in the description, y'all.
Nice.
IG.
Cool. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. This has been far too brief of an exploration of the steel drum. We're going to have to bring everybody back again to do another episode and talk more about this amazing instrument and listen to these fine musicians and hear more about the authenticity of the instrument from Miranda. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate your time and your talent. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. NerD. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Peace, you guys. Bye-bye.
Peace, guys.